On the night of December 15, 1900, a passing ship reported that the Flannan Isles light was not showing in the storm-dark Atlantic. 11 days later, the lighthouse tender Hesperus reached Eileen Moor and found the impossible part: James Ducat, Thomas Marshall, and Donald MacArthur were gone. No bodies. No farewell note. No clear witness. The Flannan mystery did not begin with a ghost story. It began with a working lighthouse, 3 named keepers, and a routine relief visit that found the station empty. Confirmed, the missing men were Principal Keeper James Ducat, Second Assistant Thomas Marshall, and Occasional Keeper Donald MacArthur. Confirmed, the disappearance was discovered on December 26, 1900. Disputed, whether the later legend preserves hidden clues, or whether it mostly adds drama to a brutal maritime accident. Interpretive, the reason this case still works is not because it has the strangest theory. It is because the ordinary evidence feels unfinished. When Hesperus arrived, there was no normal welcome from shore. A rocket was fired from the vessel. No one answered. Relieving keeper Joseph Moore went up to the lighthouse and found no keepers inside. The station was not a scene of supernatural chaos. That matters. The lamp was ready. The work appeared to have been completed. The last written log entries were earlier, but notes for later transfer still existed. The building did not read like a home abandoned over weeks. It read like men had left for a specific reason and expected to return. Outside, the west landing told a different story. Gear had been disturbed. Ropes were scattered. Railings and parts near the landing had been damaged by violent sea conditions. Confirmed, the official records describe heavy damage near the landing area. Interpretive, if the mystery has a physical center, it is not the dining table or the stopped clock. It is the exposed landing where ocean force could turn routine work into disaster. The 3 names matter because internet versions often turn the keepers into props. James Ducat was the principal keeper. Thomas Marshall was second assistant. Donald MacArthur was serving as an occasional keeper, standing in while William Ross was on sick leave. They were not fictional guards in a haunted tower. They were working men inside a young lighthouse station, doing a dangerous job on an isolated Atlantic outcrop. The Flannan Isles sit west of Lewis in the Outer Hebrides. The lighthouse stands on Eileen Moor, high above rough water, with landing places exposed to waves, weather, and timing. There was no modern instant communication from the station to shore. A failure of the light could be noticed from outside, but the island itself was not easy to check quickly. Confirmed, the lighthouse had only been operating for about a year when the disaster occurred. Interpretive, isolation is the engine of the mystery. Not because isolation proves anything supernatural, but because it creates silence around the moment that mattered most. The official explanation is simple and severe. The men probably went outside to inspect or secure damage near the west landing, and an unexpected large wave swept them away. That reading does not solve every emotional question, but it explains the strongest physical clues. The landing gear was damaged. Ropes were out of place. Railings had been broken. The men's clothing suggested they had gone out quickly and unevenly prepared. Some details imply outdoor work, not a planned disappearance. Most important, the sea around the Flannan Isles can be violent enough to make a person disappear without leaving a theatrical trace. Confirmed, the investigation concluded the keepers were probably caught by a large sea and drowned. Disputed, whether every detail of clothing, timing, and damage can be reconstructed with certainty. Interpretive, the official answer is not boring. It is terrifying because it shows how little drama nature needs to erase 3 lives. Then the legend grew. Some versions make the lighthouse feel like a locked room puzzle. Others turn it into a supernatural warning. But the strongest historical handling is stricter. It separates documented records from later atmosphere. The real record already has enough tension: a missing light, a delayed discovery, a silent station, damaged landing equipment, and 3 men never recovered. Adding fake certainty can actually weaken the mystery, because it distracts from the evidence that can be checked. Confirmed, records exist in Lighthouse Board and National Archive material. Disputed, many dramatic details in popular versions are not equally well supported. Interpretive, Flannan became famous partly because the absence of witnesses invited writers to fill the silence. The best suspect in this story has no motive. It has weather, tide, rock, and height. A rogue or unusually large wave does not need to arrive like a cinematic wall. Around exposed islands, sea can surge, reflect, and climb in ways that surprise people even when they understand danger. If one keeper saw damage, he might go down to check it. If another realized he needed help, he might follow. A third might rush out because something urgent was happening. That chain is interpretive, not confirmed. But it matches the kind of accident the official report imagined: practical work near a dangerous landing, followed by sudden force. Confirmed, the west landing area showed damage consistent with severe sea action. Disputed, the exact sequence of who went out first, who followed, and why. Interpretive, the most haunting version is not that the island hid a monster. It is that normal duty placed all 3 men inside the same narrow window of danger. So what remains unsolved? Not the broad cause, perhaps. The wave explanation is strong. What remains uncertain is the sequence. Why were all 3 outside, if lighthouse rules normally discouraged leaving the light unattended? Which keeper noticed the problem first? Was there one huge wave, several waves, or damage from earlier weather that drew them into danger later? Why were no bodies recovered? None of those questions require ghosts, pirates, or sea monsters. They require the one thing the case never gives us: a witness at the moment of disappearance. Confirmed, the bodies were not found. Confirmed, the light had been reported out before the relief vessel arrived. Interpretive, Flannan survives because solved and unsolved sit side by side. The likely cause is known. The human moment is missing. But probability is not the same as seeing it happen. That gap is where the lighthouse still stands. A light meant to warn ships failed to warn us exactly how 3 keepers vanished. The evidence points toward the sea. The legend points toward the tower. The responsible answer keeps both in view, but does not confuse them. Confirmed, 3 lighthouse keepers disappeared from Eileen Moor in December 1900. Confirmed, the official explanation favored a wave accident near the landing. Disputed, the dramatic folklore layered on top of the case. Interpretive, the real mystery is not whether the Atlantic is dangerous. It is how quickly danger can turn a normal workday into a century-long question. Tell me below, and stay with the Mystery Atlas TV for more mysteries where the strongest evidence is quieter than the legend.